Hey folks, walk with me. I wanted to share some of my personal experience about acknowledging past trauma, and just know that I'm not a mental health professional. I do not have any coursework. I don't have any degree, but this is my personal experience, hoping that, there's plenty of stuff out there from professionals, right? Folks with degrees and extensive expertise. But I do think that there's value in hearing from other people who have encountered similar things and just seeing if anything connects. So for a very, very long time, decades and decades, let's just call it over 40 years, I was completely, I guess I could say, unable. It feels more like unwilling to acknowledge the actual impact of what we call early childhood, adverse childhood experiences, ACE. So things that happen as a child, sometimes, or in my case at least, some things being pre-verbal, right, or pre-language. So those are, or at least for me, feel extra challenging, right? Because even at the time, you didn't have any concept of formulating thoughts or words, certainly, about your experience or your feelings, or the impact. And then if you are then surrounded by people who are neglectful of that as well, in other words, they diminish the impact because, again, either they're incapable or unwilling themselves to be able to process it or to help you process it, then you're just left with this unprocessed event or series of events that you can't cope with because you were never taken through a process of trying to understand it, come to terms with it, and basically put it to rest. Not in the sense of like it just goes away, right? That it's a distant memory that doesn't come up anymore, but more so in the sense of put it to rest, like it doesn't feel like it's still happening, right? That's the challenge, is it feels like it's still happening, that those traumatic things are still taking place current day. And it's not something that was really awful, but it happened in the past and it's over and it's not happening anymore. That's the place where I'm trying to get to. But I'm certainly not there yet. Honestly, I don't feel that I'm close to being there yet, and it sucks. But I did find, I guess, relatively brief, but I did find some comfort, some hopefulness maybe, in just the experience of finally saying like, oh, those were traumatic events that happened and they haven't been dealt with at all. And, then being further traumatized or exasperated by neglect, violence, those sorts of things, menacing or threatening behavior around the events themselves, obviously makes it much, much worse, right? And certainly doesn't leave any open opportunity for anything approaching processing, but also leaves you with a feeling of, well, if nobody else is like trying to help me through this, then I guess it's just not that bad and I should just get over it, right? To me, that's the feeling that it gets left with when it's neglected, unacknowledged, or even worse, right? That there's sort of violence or gaslighting or whatever around the topic. So just know that if you sort of keep coming back to things, it might be worth at least putting some thought to whether or not folks who should have helped you process really big, impactful events in your life, especially when you were young and you needed help processing, more help processing, if they neglected to do that or took some active role in almost like punishing you if you tried to nudge them toward helping you process it, just know that you might be understanding that presently as, oh, well, if they weren't willing to take it seriously with me, then it must not actually be that bad, and I'm just being a wimp, right? I'm just being a weakling. I need to toughen up, right? Something like that. But you thinking that you're a wimp and you need to toughen up doesn't change the fact that those events have wired you and have programmed you, and you're operating off of that program. And so it doesn't actually do you any good at all, but to further prolong the experience of that traumatic event or events. So if you're having a hard time acknowledging maybe why you are some of the ways that you are that seem not quite right, and that you constantly have visions and views of past things that feel to you like they were super impactful and that they were never dealt with, those are my 2 cents on how that felt for me or feels for me. And again, if that connects with you at all, that was maybe some of the hope here, because acknowledging and being truthful about it, to me, feels like the first step. Like I said, I'm nowhere near completion on this thing, but that has felt like some sort of useful beginning. All right, folks. Well, I hope you're enjoying your weekend. We had a little bit of a shorter walk today, as we do on the weekends, but I hope that yours is going fairly well. And as always, I will see you in the next video.